Please adhere to YouTube's selected guidelines before viewing the content of this video. I do not encourage or condone any products, actions, or behaviors shown in this video. All videos are produced in a safe, professional, and controlled environment. Please do not attempt to replicate any actions performed during the video. All actions are performed by professionals.
Alright, so today I'm going to be drinking Japan's best-selling whiskey, and I'm going to be letting y'all know just what it's like, how it is, and what I think of it. But what is Japan's best-selling whiskey? Well, from what I can gather, it is the Suntory Kakubin, also simply known as the Suntory whiskey, which is an inexpensive blended Japanese whiskey that has been around for a very long time, since 1937 to be precise, when it was first introduced by Suntory. Now, this whiskey right here is not designed to be drank straight. It is an inexpensive whiskey that is designed for mixing, I will acknowledge. And it's designed, frankly put, for one specific drink. It's designed for whiskey highballs. And some people out there actually credit the Suntory Kakubin with being the whiskey that caused the rise in popularity of highballs in Japan. That is something that cannot be understated, if it is true at least, because today, whiskey highballs and highballs in general are one of the most ubiquitous mixed drinks across Japan. You can find them just about everywhere. So if this whiskey actually caused the rise in popularity of highballs in Japan, it is one of, if not the most significant liquors currently for sale on the market here. I bought this 180 milliliter bottle for 630 yen, or around about $4.35 USD. For that price, I got a whiskey with no age statement, and I got a whiskey with an ABV of 40% / a proof of 80, making it a moderate strength whiskey, I'd have to say. Without further ado, now that I've covered everything I want to say for my intro, I do suppose I should probably go ahead and cover the look of the bottle itself. Then after that, I'm thinking I should probably go ahead and get the cap all off, go ahead and smell this whiskey, just see what the scent notes are actually like. And once I'm done doing that, I'm thinking I should probably go ahead and pour some in a cup. And I should probably go ahead and drink some of this straight and find out just how it is to drink straight and whether it's solid when drank straight as well. And then after that, I'm going to test out whether it is a good mixer as well, which of course I am expecting it to be, as that's what it's designed to be. I'm not going to be mixing it in with a club soda today, I will acknowledge. I'm going to be mixing it in with some Dr. Pepper, as that's my personal preference, but yeah, looking forward to going over everything. As said, first off, we've got to go over the look of the bottle though, which is a mildly unique look in my personal opinion. We can see a pretty thin stem right here. Of course, it's a small bottle, small stem, and then we go to very much a square bottle design down here, although I do suppose it's not really a square. It is more of a rectangle with rounded edges. It is pretty squarish in the front, but we can see it is quite the thin bottle as well. And there are a bunch of designs all over the bottle. Of course, there's the label in the middle right here. There's the label on the back as well, but on the glass itself, there are some lines just going around. Now, those lines do kind of cut off on the side of the bottle, but they look like they go all the way around if you're just holding it like this. We can see a line right here, a line right there, and those go all the way down. Then we can see some jagged lines at the very bottom and at the top as well, almost looking like a sort of tortoise shell design, which is very interesting. And the lines on the bottom, the jagged lines, actually do go all the way around the bottle, which is something I do appreciate. And same with the top, those go all the way around. So that's something that is nice to see, I will acknowledge. And overall, this is a very interesting sort of design for the bottle itself. And that's without even mentioning the fact that the area that the sticker on the front is in is actually kind of recessed into the bottle, like this is all kind of out, and this is kind of recessed just a little bit. Very interesting, I will acknowledge, and if I had to guess, this is probably thicker glass than not, to make up for the fact that there are lines in the glass itself and that the lines aren't embossed, they're recessed. So that is pretty interesting, and apparently that's how this whiskey got its name, Kakubin, because apparently when this whiskey was first introduced, it was actually known just simply as Suntory whiskey. But apparently due to the design on the bottle, people started referring to it as the Kakubin. I don't know exactly what Kakubin means, I'll acknowledge, but maybe something like tortoiseshell design or line design or something like that kind of thing. I'm not exactly sure, but what I do know is that I quite like the look of the design of this bottle. I think it looks good, and I think it's a design that has more than likely aged well, and I think it's a design that will continue to age well in the future. It's simple, but the bottle itself has some nice stuff going on. It's simple enough to not be too much, but complex enough to be like, oh, that's pretty neat kind of thing, I do suppose is really the right way of putting it. And man, all of a sudden, all the bugs started going. Holy crap, they are loud. That is wild. A Japanese summers not to be underestimated by any means. Without further ado though, now that I've covered the glass of the bottle itself, let's go ahead and cover the yellow sticker in the middle right here. We can see we get a nice rich yellow background on this sticker. There's a black line going all the way around it, just like that. And then at the very top, it just says, "From the House of Suntory," just right there. That's in black, and then under that we get the Suntory coat of arms in a nice shiny gold. As we can see, we get a very detailed design, just says Suntory on a ribbon on the bottom. We get a shield and a sword in the middle, and what looks like either like 2 dragons or 2 horses on either side. An overall surprisingly intricate design for a whiskey of this price point, I will acknowledge. Under that, it just says fine quality in black, and then under that we just get a very fancy design, which it's fancy, yes, but it kind of feels like gas station fancy, which is exactly what this is, frankly put. This is a gas station bottle of liquor. Essentially, they sell this at like every 7-Eleven, Lawson's, Family Mart in Japan, so it really is gas station fancy, I will acknowledge. But we can see in a fancier font, it just says Suntory whiskey right there, with the S and the W being in red, and around all of the text, with this text over here being in black, but around all of the text there is indeed a gold border, which is pretty nice to see, and overall looks pretty good in my personal opinion. And yep, that's all there is to the text. I'm just trying to think if there's any sort of drop shadow or shading or anything like that, but I'm not seeing any. It is all embossed, which is pretty nice, and so is this up here. And then moving on below the Suntory whiskey logo itself, we can see there is a signature in black, and then under that it just says none genuine without this signature, like the signature isn't just printed on anyway. And then under that it just says 80 proof, and then it just says whiskey right there in Japanese. And that's what we get on the label on the front. Nothing terribly complex by any means, but overall a very nice solid look in my personal opinion. Moving on to the back, we have, instead of a circular logo, a diamond-shaped logo, which is pretty interesting, and the glass is recessed in a diamond shape rather than in a circle shape this time around, which is pretty neat to see, and we can see that on camera as well. Can we see how the front is on camera? Not as intensely, but we can see it, but that is pretty cool to see that diamond shape on the back of the bottle. That's pretty neat to see, I will acknowledge. But we can see the barcode right there in the middle on this yellow sticker with a black background at the top and the bottom. And the barcode, as I said, it's right in the middle. And then everything else on the sticker is pretty much just informational stuff. Contact number, saying what it is, saying you can't buy if you're under 20, etc., etc. Nothing really too crazy by any means. And that's pretty much all that's going on the back of the bottle. And moving on to the actual lid of the bottle itself, we can see it is a, well, yellow lid. I would have to say the yellow is slightly different than that of the label yellow, just due to the different materials used. Of course, this is a metal cap rather than this being a paper logo, so just the tones of the yellow are going to look a little bit different, even if they are the exact same numerical shade and everything like that kind of thing. Just due to the different materials, they are going to look a little bit different, and they do look just the slightest bit different. But we can see on the very top of the cap, we get the Suntory coat of arms right there in black. And then we also get just Suntory whiskey, Suntory whiskey, Suntory whiskey over and over and over again on the side of the cap itself, along with a little bit of an arrow telling us which way to twist. Moving on to the back of the, not onto the back of the bottle, but onto the bottom of the bottle, we can see it just says 30YS4, and then there's like a bunch of dots, and then it just says 3, or just there's like 3 lines right there. I don't know what any of that means really, but if you guys know, let me know in the comments down below. And yep, that's all there is to the bottle. Nothing really too much going on. And if you do buy a bigger bottle of this whiskey, you're gonna get a pretty similar, if not identical look, unless it's some sort of limited edition of the Kakubin or something like that. And yeah, that's all there is to the packaging. Overall, solid, iconic look that is pretty memorable in my personal opinion. No complaints on my behalf. Definitely a better look than a lot of gas station bottles of like, or like a gas station bottles. I say gas station bottles in like quotations, but definitely a better look than like a lot of like super small bottles of stuff like in the United States. Like let's say Captain Morgan, like 350 milliliters or something like that kind of thing. It's just like kind of boring. It's just like a plastic bottle with like a label slapped on and really nothing too much interesting going on and stuff like that kind of thing. This actually has a nice interesting design on the glass itself, even though it only costs $4.35, and that's just nice to have, even if it really is just a gas station bottle of liquor. Frankly put, I don't mind this packaging by any means, and it is solid. But without further ado, I do suppose I should probably go ahead and get the cap all off now, shouldn't I, so I can actually go ahead and smell this whiskey for the very first time. So let's go and get that off just like that, and let's go ahead and just smell this whiskey real quick. And yeah, it smells like whiskey. I'm gonna be honest with y'all, it really does smell like whiskey. Man, those bugs really are just so loud though. I somehow didn't notice them until I started this video, or they all of a sudden got really loud. I don't know which it is. But overall, I'm getting very much out of a creamy, grain, almost corn-like smell from this whiskey, with undertones of a little bit of caramel, brown sugar, and molasses. And oddly enough, a little bit of like candy corn as well, which is really interesting. I don't know why. Very interesting, yeah. Not a bad smell at all, and doesn't smell like it's going to be insanely rough. We'll find out. But it certainly doesn't smell low quality by any means, unlike some other liquors out there like Bacardi Gold. I hate Bacardi Gold so much. It's disgusting. Genuinely the worst liquor I've ever had, even more so than Tito's. And I hate Tito's. Tito's smells like crap too. But this stuff smells pretty good in my personal opinion. Yeah, very much that of a, I'd have to say, mildly sweet, mildly savory, creamy, grain, corn-like flavor, or sorry, not flavor, scent, with undertones of, yeah, I'd have to say caramel, brown sugar, molasses, and honestly a little bit of candy corn in there as well, oddly enough. Yeah, overall, yeah, cream, grain, corn, a little bit of vanilla, caramel, brown sugar, molasses, candy corn. That's very much the smell I'm getting from this whiskey. Yeah, can't complain, can't complain. Well, let's see if it smells any different once I actually pour it into my glass. One thing I did forget to cover is the look of the whiskey itself, which we can see is a very nice, light golden, sort of bronze-ish color. And I figure it's probably going to look pretty similar once it's in my glass, because there's a pretty thin bottle after all. Let's go ahead and get my cup all out though, if I possibly can. And once I get it out, I can't put it down because y'all know I can't put down the cup. No, I'm just kidding. I will put down the cup because it's empty right now, actually. But let's go ahead and see if I can get my cup out. Just got to get it out of my backpack. I left it out of my backpack just so no bugs would get into it while I am sitting on this bench right here or anything like that kind of thing. Let's see if I can get it out real quick. I think I'm just going to have to lift up the plastic bag it's in and get it out like that. And now that I have my cup all out, which we can see is a little tiny Pizza Hut cup that's clear, not red like it would be a Pizza Hut, but it's the same material. I love it very much. Got it for 310 yen at the Kitchen Street in Tokyo, and I've been carrying it around with me ever since. Not always in my backpack, I will acknowledge, but actually always in my backpack, most certainly 100%, because you never know when you're going to need a cup to drink some whiskey out of. You never know. Just got to make sure that it's all good to go, make sure there's just nothing that got in or anything like that kind of thing. I did have it just thrown in my backpack after all. And now I'm thinking I should probably go ahead and get my whiskey cracked open once again, and I should probably go ahead and pour myself just a little bit of this whiskey right here into my glass. And I think we're going to stick with that just for the moment. Depending on how it is, we may or may not drink all of it, but before I get to drinking, let's go ahead and first off, just smell it in the glass a little bit. And I would have to say in the glass it's a little bit more of a mild scent. It's a little bit less intense than it was in the bottle, which is very interesting because a lot of the times it's actually opposite. It's a little bit more intense in the glass, whereas it is where compared to the bottle. Sometimes in the bottle it's really kind of mild, oddly enough, whereas in the glass it's actually quite intense because it's kind of been mixed around just a little bit, I do suppose, or something like that. Very, very, very interesting. Very, very, very interesting. Well, overall, I'd have to say overall smell-wise, it's mostly the same. There are some minor differences. I'd have to say that caramel corn, or not caramel corn, sorry, candy corn sort of smell is a little bit less intense. That I would have to say brown sugar molasses smell is a little bit less intense. But overall, I'm still getting very much that of a sweet, slightly savory, alcohol, creamy corn, like creamy grain corn, like smell with undertones of caramel and brown sugar and vanilla, along with just the slightest bit of candy corn as well. Anything else to note? No, not really. I don't think so, in all honesty. There's a little bit of a zing to it, without a doubt, when you're smelling it, and I do expect there to be a zing when I'm drinking it as well, without a doubt. But yeah, overall, sweet, savory, creamy, vanilla-like, grain corn flavor with undertones of caramel, brown sugar, molasses, and a little bit of candy corn. Although the candy corn is very, very, very deep in there now. Well, now that I've talked about what the smell of Japan's best-selling whiskey is actually like, I do suppose it's time for me to find out just how Japan's best-selling whiskey actually is to drink straight. I don't drink a lot of liquor straight. I'm gonna be straight with y'all. I'm a little bit nervous. I'm kind of expecting it to be really rough. I hope it's not gonna be. Only one way to find out, though. Without further ado, let's go ahead and take a sip and let's find out how this stuff is. Yes, sir, you know what I'm saying? Now, I haven't had any straight liquor in probably just about the last 2 weeks now. But that's quite spicy. That is really spicy. However, it's just right off the bat not bad. Maybe not like the highest quality whiskey I've ever had, without a doubt. Certainly not the highest quality liquor I've ever had. But when compared to comparable options in the United States, this is superior, I will acknowledge. I mean, like, what liquor can you get in the United States for $4.35 besides an airplane bottle? Not much, frankly put. And if you are able to find something, it's probably going to be the bottom shelf of the bottom shelf. Even when compared to something that in the US of A is a little bit more expensive, like let's say Bacardi Gold, this is superior just initially. Bacardi Gold tastes like straight chemicals, in my personal opinion. It tastes like plastic and straight chemicals. It tastes like crap. This does not taste like plastic and straight chemicals. And overall, I'd have to say the taste itself is not anything particularly complex. It is, I would say, more of a simple taste than not, without a doubt. but there is a little bit of a cheap taste to it. It's not truly like a chemical taste or something like that, but it's just got like a cheap taste to it kind of thing. Like, I don't know if I'm really putting that the right way, but like with some stuff you kind of just taste it and you're like, it just tastes cheap. This kind of has that. Actually, the more that I have taken a sip of it, the more I do think there is a slight bit of chemical taste to it that I think you're really only going to notice if you're drinking it straight. I don't think you're going to notice that if you're mixing that into anything. If you're mixing it into anything. I've only had like 3 tiny sips. I'm not even buzzed yet, and I've got my words all drummed up. But very interesting, very interesting. Oh yeah, the more I drink it, the more I'm actually noticing a slight chemical taste. Like, is this still better than Bacardi? Yes, absolutely. It's still better than Bacardi Gold, without a doubt. Still better than Tito's. But it is definitely a cheap, bottom shelf whiskey that is really just meant for mixing, frankly put. It smells really good. It doesn't taste nearly as good. It's quite rough. And it's not a whiskey that you're gonna want to drink on its own, frankly put. I would not say to drink the Suntory Kakubin on its own. Don't do it. It's not a whiskey that's really meant for that, and it's not a whiskey that I personally would want to drink straight again. But I am gonna do it again because I need to figure out what the full taste of this stuff is like, and to do that I need to have a couple more sips. I will acknowledge. Even if I am just taking tiny little baby sips, that's good enough for me. A lot of spice. A lot of spice. In the back of my throat, a lot of spice. It is definitely a bit heavy on the spice, but the spice is not just like pure peppery spice or pure just spice. There's an interesting sort of odd, like creamy, grainy corn, like vanilla flavor to that spice, which is pretty nice. And overall, I'd have to say this whiskey very much tastes as it smells, frankly put. Taste-wise, I am very much getting that of a mildly sweet, mildly savory, but also slightly spicy now. Sort of creamy, vanilla, grain-like corn flavor with undertones of caramel, brown sugar, a little bit of molasses, and surprisingly, a little bit of candy corn. Excuse me. And that's what I really do think it kind of tastes like. Now, there's also a little bit of a chemical taste in there as well. I will acknowledge, you can definitely tell it's mass-produced. It's not the highest quality thing in the world. But the chemical taste is not nearly as prominent in the Kakubin as it is in something like, let's say, Bacardi Gold or something along those lines. Bacardi Gold is just straight disgusting. And while I haven't really drank a lot of like super cheap liquor from the United States, I figure a lot of really cheap bottom shelf liquor probably has a similar sort of chemical, plastic, disgusting like taste. I'm gonna go ahead and grab myself a little bit of a screenshot for the thumbnail of the video real quick. Gotta do it to him, of course. I'm gonna put my sunnies on for it though. And I think I'm going to try to grab myself just one with a little bit of better lighting. Let's see. Yeah, something like that. That's actually, I like that lighting. We're gonna go with that. I just hit my tripod on my backpack and then it flicked into my leg. But now that we have a little bit of a screenshot for the video, I think it's time for me to take probably one more sip. And then I think it's time for me to go ahead and mix in some Dr. Pepper. But yeah, genuinely, I mean, like, not the worst liquor to drink straight. Not a liquor I'd ever want to drink straight again, frankly put. And definitely the worst whiskey I've ever tried drinking straight, just because it's the lowest quality of them all. It's also one of the rougher, and it's also one of the, well, worst tasting, just due to that chemical taste, which I did say was very slight, but it actually is a bit more prominent than not. It kind of depends on what sip you take. Some sips you get like none of that chemical flavor, and some sips you do get some. It's very interesting, but overall, when drank straight, in my opinion, the Suntory Kakubin, Japan's best-selling whiskey, has very much a flavor of, I would have to say, sweetness, savoriness, slightly spiciness, and undertones of creamy, vanilla, grain, corn, caramel, brown sugar, molasses, and a little bit of candy corn. And then under that, chemical taste. But as I said, the chemical taste kind of depends hit to hit. Some tastes, or not hit to hit, but sip to sip. You do get that taste in some sips and not in other sips, which is very interesting, I will acknowledge. But yeah, that's what this whiskey, the Suntory Kakubin, tastes like when drank straight. Would I personally drink it straight again? No. No, I would not. But, you know, honestly, for $4.35 USD, 630 yen, I mean, like, I can't complain. I can't complain. I mean, like, for the price, it's kind of like goated. Because it's like, okay, yeah, it's kind of crap to drink straight, but like, if you really wanted to, I don't think I don't think shots with it would be the worst. And I certainly don't think it's going to be a bad mixer. I think the flavor is going to pair pretty well with Coca-Cola, Dr. Pepper, Pepsi. I think it's probably going to pair pretty well with, well, club soda as well, of course. The Suntory Kakubin is quite literally, from what I can tell at least, designed to be made into whiskey highball. So, of course, that taste is going to pair pretty well with that as well. Yeah, overall, might not be the best thing in the world to drink straight, but frankly put, for $4.35, I can't complain. I really can't, because that's like cheaper than any equivalent liquor you can get in the United States in equivalent size, frankly put. Yeah. Can't complain, really. I really just can't complain due to the price, I'll acknowledge. But yeah, not a whiskey I would really want to drink straight again. And when drank straight, I'm gonna have to give the Suntory Kakubin, without considering price in this ranking, without considering packaging in this ranking, just how it is drank straight, what is my rating for the Suntory Kakubin when drank straight at least? 2 out of 4. 2 out of 4. I think some people might not mind the little bit of the chemical taste, and it's certainly not the worst thing I've ever drank, but it's not a 3 out of 4, and it's certainly not a 4 out of 4. 2 out of 4 for the Suntory Kakubin when drank straight. But how will it be as a mixer? Well, let's go ahead and get my Dr. Pepper all out of the bag I have it in. And let's go ahead and, oh man, thankfully it's still a little bit cold. Nice. No complaints on my behalf. It was worth keeping it in my backpack this whole time. But now that I've got my Dr. Pepper all out, let's go ahead and real quick just pour a little bit more of the Kakubin in my glass. How much more do I want? Not too much more, probably just like that. I'm thinking we'll do the trick. And now that I have done that, let's go ahead and open up my Dr. Pepper, which we can see has an interesting, like, 1950s family design for some reason. Not exactly sure why, but let's go ahead and get this all opened up, and let's go ahead and pour it in my glass. Just like that. And while I don't have a stirrer with me today, I will just kind of stir up the cup with just the motion of my hand, like that. Perfect, perfect. Well, now that I have properly mixed some of the Suntory Kakubin, Japan's best-selling whiskey, with some Dr. Pepper, one of my favorite sodas of all time, it's time to find out how the Suntory Kakubin, Japan's best-selling whiskey, actually is as a mixer. Without further ado, let's get drinking. Yes, sir, you know what I'm saying. And yeah, it's pretty solid in my opinion. Yep, not bad at all. At least based off that first sip. Yeah, no. I will also acknowledge I do have a little bit of a buzz going. Somehow that tiniest bit of whiskey I drank for just drinking it straight actually somehow like got me a little bit of a buzz. I don't know how. But it did. No complaints on my behalf. Overall though, yeah, solid, don't mind it. And really, in all honesty, I mean, like, some whiskeys, you can kind of still taste the undertones of them under, like, whatever mixer you're using, whether it be Coca-Cola, whether it be Club Soda, whether it be Dr. Pepper. I mean, like, of course, it's going to be most prominent with Club Soda because you're kind of meant to taste everything under that. But with the heavier taste than not of the Dr. Pepper, I really can't taste much of the Kakubin by any means. Maybe a little bit of the caramel and brown sugar molasses. Maybe a little bit of that candy corn. And maybe a little bit of that vanilla and corn-like taste, but really not much. The main flavor really is that of Dr. Pepper. And while the Dr. Pepper does do an amazing job of covering up the flavor of the Kakubin flavor does come through a little bit as well. However, I am getting no sort of chemical flavor from the flavor of the Kakubin that is coming through to me. It's just the nice flavor that I wanted from it from the get-go. None of that chemical flavor stuff. It's just the nice, pleasant flavor of Japan's best-selling whiskey. No complaints on my behalf. Yeah, overall, I'd have to say the Suntory Kakubin, pretty solid as a mixer. Depending on the mixer you use, you might get more or less taste profile from the whiskey itself. And even with a mixer that has a heavier flavor profile than not like Dr. Pepper, you are still going to get a little bit of that profile through, but none of that chemical sort of taste. Overall, I can definitely tell the Suntory Kakubin is designed to be a mixer. It's not designed to be the highest quality drink by any means. It's meant to be a cheap mixer that gets you buzzed pretty quickly, and that's exactly what it does. And as a mixer, it's quite smooth. It tastes pretty good mixed into my drink, and it's absolutely a whiskey that I would purchase as a mixer again in the future. Like, would I buy a bottle of this stuff to drink straight again? Hell no, I would. No way. I would not buy a bottle of this stuff to drink straight again. No way. I have no desire to ever drink the Suntory whiskey straight again. I am all good. But as a mixer, 630 yen, $4.35. Frankly put, like, how can I complain at that price? Like, it's just a good mixer. Is it cheaper than, like, Strong Zero, though, I think is really the real question. I wonder. Because Strong Zero is like 9%. Get a can of it for like 228 yen at 7-Eleven. That's a tall boy can, not a small can. Small cans are like 158, I think. Get a tall boy can of 228. So 9%, like 700 milliliters or something. I wonder. Because 3 Strong Zeros and the price is about equivalent. 3 tall boy cans of Strong Zeros and the price is about equivalent. But I wonder which one would actually get you more alcohol. I wonder. Probably the whiskey, in all honesty. The whiskey is probably the better purchase, but I'm not sure. It's hard to say. I wonder. Overall, though, I think I can say with confidence that the Suntory Kakubin is a very solid mixer. I enjoyed my drink I just had, and I'm certain that I will enjoy more drinks mixed with this whiskey in the future. So, no complaints on my behalf. Overall, rating-wise, what do I want to give this as a mixer? I'd have to give it a solid high 3 out of 4, frankly put. It's cheap. You can't taste any sort of bad chemical taste through the liquid you're mixing into the whiskey, or the whiskey into. And overall, it's just a solid whiskey to mix into, I think, Dr. Pepper, Coca-Cola, whatever you want kind of thing. I think it's just going to be a solid whiskey for that. So I'm going to have to give it a high 3 out of 4 for that purpose at least. Combined ranking, as said, 2 out of 4 for drinking straight. And that's like a mid 2 out of 4 for drinking straight. And I would have to say high 3 out of 4 for mixing. You know, I'm going to have to say, rating-wise combined, this is... Uh-oh. I would have to say combined rating-wise, I would have to say probably like a, I'm gonna have to say like a 3.4 out of 4, like a 3.4, 3.5 out of 4, very much a mid 3 out of 4 rating. I'm gonna have to say is the rating I'm gonna have to give for this whiskey right here combined. As said, drinking straight, it's like a 2 out of 4. Drinking mixed, it's like a high 3 out of 4. But when combined, it comes out to a mid 3 out of 4 for the Suntory Kakubin, Japan's best-selling whiskey. So how was it overall? Well, it wasn't good to drink straight. I have no desire to ever drink the Suntory Kakubin straight ever again. But it's pretty dang good as a mixer, and I will certainly use it as a mixer much more in the future, especially since I still have a bunch of the bottle left, I will acknowledge. No complaints on my behalf. Overall, glad I tried the Suntory Kakubin, Japan's best-selling whiskey, during today's video, and I hope you guys enjoyed watching today's video as well. I stopped for a moment because I'm sure you guys saw the gentleman walking up the grass over there. He was walking his Pomeranian. His Pomeranian didn't have a leash on, and it started wandering over to me, just kind of like looking around at where I was. Not like coming at me, just like literally wandering over. And I was just kind of like, I didn't know if it was gonna like come up and like sniff my legs or something like that. So I was like, I should probably just stop for a second, just in case he comes over or says something. But his dog kind of walked like over and then like around, which I thought was too hilarious. Like did not come like within like near me. It was just like 2 feet away at all times. So well-trained dog without a doubt. Didn't try running from him, but he picked it up and walked over there. But yeah, overall, Suntory Kakubin, glad I tried it. And, you know, I wouldn't drink it straight, but I'd drink it as a mixer again. I need to figure out what Japan's second best-selling whiskey is now. I wonder. I'll have to figure it out. Well, hope you guys have enjoyed watching today's video. If you guys have enjoyed watching today's video, of course, please make sure to like and subscribe for more content. I have my Instagram, my book, my merch, my everything else in the description down below. Go check it all out. If you guys have ever tried the Suntory Kakubin, let me know what you guys think of it in the description down below, or in the description down below, in the comments down below. I'm a little bit buzzed. I'm going to have a great rest of my day, and I hope you all do as well. To the next one, stay safe and peace, and have a great one. Yes, sir, you know what I'm saying?